All right, everybody, thank you and welcome. Council just came from an in-camera DC meeting, and now we're here ready to start our special City Council meeting. So welcome to everybody. First up, we'd like to start with disclosures of a pecuniary interest. Do we have any disclosures of council for the upcoming meeting? Okay, and just checking online, Mr. Clerk, do we have councilors online? Not sure if we have Councilor Campbell or not. Do we have him? He's not on? Okay. Thank you for that. And as we kick off, did you want to maybe just kind of open up the meeting a little bit, Mr. Clerk, and give everybody their protocols and expectations?
Yeah, so we'll just announce and read off a script that we have for today's public meeting. That is the only thing on the agenda today. And as per a special meeting, we won't be considering any new items today. The next item on the agenda is a public meeting to receive input from the public to be considered in the preparation of the city's new official plan. This special meeting of council is being held under section 26(3) of the Planning Act. The city has engaged the planning partnership consultants to assist with the preparation of this new official plan and to guide the public consultation process. The consultant will be outlining the work plan and engagement plan through a presentation at today's meeting. Notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act on January 31st, 2024, and again on February 5th, 2024. What we'll do here is the mayor will introduce the staff member. Once that presentation is done and the consultants have had a chance to speak, council will be given the opportunity to ask any questions, and then we will go into the portion where we hear from the public, and I'll have a few comments to make at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And for anyone wondering, to my left is Kira Dolch, our General Manager of Planning. Big improvement over our CAO, who we've relegated to the back row, as far away as we could. So everybody, welcome to the meeting and appreciate your interest and appreciate everybody being a part of the meeting. So first off, I'd like to call up Francesca Berardi. She's our Senior Official Plan Project Manager from our Planning, Building and Development Department, and she's going to introduce the report as well as the consultants who's going to lead us through the presentation today. So Francesca, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank everyone for being here with us tonight, councilors.
Sorry, can you turn on the microphone there in front of you? Just a little red button. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone for being with us tonight, councilors, staff, and those who are here in person or virtually, whether it's to provide us with comments tonight or just to listen in and provide us comments as we go through the project. We're here tonight to give a very high-level outline of the project that we are formally kicking off. That is the new official plan for the City of Niagara Falls. My name is Francesca Berardi. I have been a policy planner with the city for 20 years and am currently their city's project manager for the official plan. Here with me tonight is Kira Dolch, the General Manager for Planning, Building and Development, and Signe Hansen, our Senior Manager of Long Range Planning Initiatives. Next slide. I could do that. Okay. Our current official plan was written over 40 years ago, and it needs to be refreshed and updated to reflect the vision of the city today and moving forward into the future, and also to bring a more modern planning approach and create a document that is clearer and easier to read. Tonight's public meeting is dedicated solely to the new official plan. This project will look at the whole of the city, whether it's the rural or urban area, and it's not the process to look at site-specific properties. And it's also noted that it's a provision under the Planning Act that any applications that are currently being considered under the current official plan need to continue to be considered under the current policies, and this official plan is not to be used to revisit what council may be considering under a different process. We want to provide you with a bit of context on what we're doing, take in your views and comments, and take that input forward in creating a vision for the plan, ultimately leading to new policies. No decisions are being made at tonight's meeting. So over the next few months, we'll be working with our consultants, the planning partnership, to create a new vision for the long-term land use of the city. And they're here with us tonight, and we'll be giving you a quick overview of who, what, when, how and whys of the project. But before I introduce them, I'd like to start things off with a video. I'm sure you'll be impressed with the star of the video. Her name is Adeline. She's a 4th grade student at Loretto School and a resident of Niagara Falls. Adeline will be giving you a little bit of context for tonight's meeting.
The whole world knows about Niagara Falls. I mean, just look at that. But Niagara Falls is more than just the falls. It's where I live, where I go to school, and where I hang out with my family and friends. Our city's always growing and changing. That's why Niagara Falls is coming up with a new official plan, a vision to 2051. But we can't do it without your help. Our future will be decided by our community. That's you, working together with our city staff. By 2051, the population of Niagara Falls will be 141,000. We'll have 20,000 new homes, and there'll be over 17,000 new jobs. And I'll be 37. I sure hope I don't go gray early like my mom. To plan a good city, you need to be aware of the opportunities and challenges, and develop a vision by creating a new plan, our official plan, that tells us how and where we are going to grow. After all, getting the city we want takes time and planning. I'll need schools to support my future career choices, a local job that I love, green spaces, trails, and recreational centers to keep me healthy and zen. And the things we all need, like healthcare, agricultural areas to feed us, and accessible transportation options. Will I be able to get to the things I need within walking distance? Or scooting distance? And where will I live when I get my own place? When I get married, and even when I get as old as my parents? Will I want a home with my own garden? Or a smaller place to live carefree and travel the world, always coming back to my home, just like the tourists that visit us? What will Niagara Falls look like in 2051? Will dear Daddy still be mayor?
I hope not.
I'm just kidding, Mr. Mayor. That beautiful necklace will be around my neck.
It's not a necklace, it's a chain.
Will Niagara Falls look the same? Will it meet our goal of creating a complete city with walkable communities, protected natural spaces, and have everything we need for our daily lives? We all have a role to play in updating our official plan to create a Niagara Falls we can all be proud of.
Do you think I can get my chain back now?
I don't know, Mr. Mayor. I think I can get used to this. Join the conversation at Let's Talk Niagara Falls.
All right.
I'd like to thank Adeline and our communications department for their work on this video.
Very good.
We are very pleased to be working with the Planning Partnership team. The Planning Partnership is a very well-respected planning firm formally established in 2002. They provide a full range of consulting services and have successfully worked on a number of official plans across the province. For our new official plan, they have assembled an impressive team of professionals with notable experience to create a new official plan that is unique to this city. I'd like to introduce you to Donna Hyde, our project manager and consultant lead. She will serve as the key project contact and lead consultation throughout the duration of the assignment and will manage the public engagement process. Also with us is Ron Palmer. He is the senior planning policy advisor, and Mr. Joe Nethery, who is the project coordinator and lead planner on the project. Donna will be providing us with a brief presentation, after which the floor will be open to anyone and everyone who wishes to share their views on what works and what needs improvement in the city and our land use plans and what we'd like to see Niagara Falls look like and function over the next 10, 20, or 30 years. So, Donna, if you'd like to come up.
Ms. Hind, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I can just get that. I'll just wait for the presentation to be loaded. I just need to scroll up to the first page. There we go. There we go, perfect. Thank you very much for the opportunity to kick off the official plan process, and I'm really happy to be here with two of my colleagues, Joe and Ron, who are going to be helping answer whatever questions we have. So, in terms of advancing, I'm advancing here, or I can...
The arrow key you can use.
The arrow key on the keyboard?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was, oh, there we go. Let me just make sure, I'm just gonna go back one. There we go. So the purpose of this special meeting, it's for everyone to learn about the new official plan for Niagara Falls and the process over the next year that we're going to use to prepare it. It's for us to learn about what's important to people in the room and in the audience and online. It's for us to hear from people about how they want to be involved in the process that's going to unfold over the next several months, aiming to complete it in December 2024. It's really important from the outset to understand what an official plan is. It determines how land should be used, but it's also about the look and the feel and the character and the form of Niagara Falls. It ensures that planning and development meets the needs of the community. So over the next several months, we're going to learn together about where to locate housing, jobs, parks, public places, places to shop. We're going to understand how the community wants to grow. We're going to understand where parks and open spaces and public places should be located. We're going to understand what roads and infrastructure is required to support the development that's envisioned. We need a new official plan, and Francesca talked a little bit about this in the introduction. We know that it has to conform to the region of Niagara's newly approved official plan, was approved in 2022. We know that the current official plan is a little outdated. And we know that we need to address the current issues that we've come to understand, issues like affordable housing and great urban design, climate change, adaptation, and enhancing our urban forest. It's really important because it establishes that conformity with the region's plan. It enables us to modernize the readability, the flexibility, the interpretation of the policies to ensure that maybe we can reduce the need for numerous amendments over the coming years. It allows us to incorporate some policy recommendations that have already been explored in a whole host of studies and master plan that the city has already done. It allows us to include some innovative policy that addresses some of the issues I just spoke about. It helps us guide development of growth through secondary plans, and it sets the stage for the city's future new zoning bylaw. So we know, again, was hinted at the video and in Francesca's notes, that the population is growing. We know that we're working to a target of around 140,000. We know that there's a target of about 20,000 new residential units by 2051, and that there's a pledge with the city to build 8,000 of those new residential units by 2031. As I mentioned, the city's done a host of terrific background studies and reports and master plans that our whole team is in the process of diving into right now. So they are absolutely the building blocks of the new official plan and give the whole team a terrific point of departure for every aspect and topic that we're going to be exploring over the coming months. So we have a 5-phase work program. We're here in the very first phase. You can see down the right, we're starting February. We're aiming to wrap up in December. We'll work through background research and preparing discussion papers. We'll set some policy direction. We'll draft the official plan and then conclude in the 5th phase with working through approval. A little bit of detail on each one of the phases. We're right now in the project initiation and visioning. So over the coming weeks, we're finalizing the work plan with our city staff team. We're confirming the communication and engagement. We'll be starting to review, doing a deep dive on the existing reports that the city has provided us with. The city's launching a project-specific page on the Let's Talk Niagara Falls webpage, which is a terrific platform that the city has to encourage engagement in all of your projects. And then we start with engagement on visioning, and that'll include visioning sessions with council. It'll include focus groups, and then those groups are focused on maybe a particular demographic, cultural group, interest, whatever. We're leaving it vague so that we can have focused conversations with specific groups. We'll be reaching out to First Nations, and we'll be launching an online survey to try and reach out to the whole city and to get input on words and phrases that should be captured in an overall vision statement and fundamental design principles. In the second phase, we start preparing the guiding discussion papers. So our whole team is being mobilized this week to get started on those discussion papers, and we'll take those discussion papers out to the whole city to get input on their content. So you can see we've proposed 7+ open houses on the discussion papers, and those open houses may be locations across the city or maybe over the course of a whole week and different times and days. And these are the details that we're going to talk with the city staff team, report out at a technical advisory committee, again, focus groups, First Nations, and an online survey. So we're trying to reach out every phase we're working on to make sure everyone has a chance to review and comment on the team's work in progress. By the third phase, we're setting some direction for policy direction, and again, we push that out to the community for input. In that third phase, we'll be suggesting to our city staff team some alternative formats for the official plan, so that, going back to why it's important that it's readable, that it's user-friendly, that it's easy to understand. Then in the fourth phase, we've come up with the draft official plan, and so you'll see in every phase we have those blue bubbles where we're reaching out to the community to report back. And then the fifth phase is the approval process. So again, we're aiming to wrap up at the end of this year. So public engagement, many ways to share input. We'll have workshops and open houses and informations. We may have pop-up roving displays throughout the city, small group discussions, might have school visits, online surveys. Just use as many different forums, tools, and tactics as we can to engage with as many people as we can. So our aim is to talk to people early and often through every month of the coming months, and trying to make sure that we understand the profile of the population in Niagara Falls and that we're reaching out to all of the communities. So we'll talk to youth, seniors, young families, specific cultural ethnic groups. We'll talk to residents in various neighborhoods and communities across the city, business owners, Indigenous communities and service providers, First Nations, the mayor and councillors, and then city staff and approving agencies. So our goal is, again, talk to people early and often. We will be producing, in short order, 6 discussion papers, and the specific content of those discussion papers we're going to be reviewing in conversation with our city staff team. But generally, the discussion papers will look at mobility, urban design, green, growing city, international city, and a cultural city. So the official plan is really important because it sets the stage for the secondary plans, for a future zoning bylaw, for design guidelines, for development applications, building permits, and construction. So it's so important to get it right. So right now, the phase we're in is visioning. We want the whole city to start imagining what the city is like in 2051. And so those are questions we're going to be asking over the coming weeks about where do people live, work, and play? How do we sustain tourism? How do we protect agriculture? How do we make sure we're protecting heritage and cultural resources? So a whole host of questions we'll be putting on the table. So we want to just end the presentation by encouraging people to talk to us, to go on the Let's Talk Niagara Falls webpage, to click on that official plan project page, to put your name in to make sure you're informed of updates and know what's going on, to check on that page often because we're going to be posting our work in progress, presentations, draft reports, notices, and then to talk to us, to just take every opportunity you can to talk to us whenever you want to over the coming months. So thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce the official plan.
Thank you, Ms. Hein. So yes, so we have some questions, looks like. Councillor Coco?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for your presentation to the speaker. I do have some questions. Maybe you would like to stay there. Thank you. I'm wondering how we're going to promote. I know we do tons of great stuff within the community, and it's always difficulty to get it out there to everybody. Are there some new ideas about how we can promote this to get people involved and get their feedback?
I think so. I think the city's doing a terrific job. I don't know, Signe, do you want to take that question, or
Sure.
Kira?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Staff have been working very closely with our communications department, and as you can see from the graphics, they've developed a whole communications suite for us for this plan. We are working very closely in terms of promoting the official plan through social media, through the website, through Let's Talk. We're working with them in terms of keeping it up to date. As the project evolves over the next year. We're also looking at out-of-the-box opportunities. We'd like to get into the schools and talk to, the official plan, we're really designing the future for the girl that you saw in the video. When, we're designing for 30 years from now or 20 years from now and what their futures will be. So we want to talk to the students, we want to talk to the kids in the community, and that's why the video was designed the way it was, is trying to engage the youth of the community in this process. So we're trying to look at different options beyond the traditional holding a public open house, holding a public workshop, and a public meeting. We're trying to get out in the community. We'll look at pop-ups at Gale Center or the McBain Center or libraries, and trying to get out in the community and get this in front of people. So we have spent quite a bit of time, and Francesca and Dale have spent quite a bit of time in developing a strategy to do that. So.
Great, thank you. Do we have a target of how much input? Because I know some of our other surveys, you might get 400 people, 1,500 people. Do we have a target of how many people we want to get input from? Because this is a big deal.
Maybe we'll come to Kira. Maybe she can help direct us on the big picture on what your thoughts are.
Thank you, Worship, through you to the councillor. So obviously we don't know how, we're planning on surveys. We're going to do a number of surveys. They're going to go through Let's Talk. There'll be a Let's Talk survey page and link that'll be happening. So we will get that information, but we are just hoping to have in-person kind of dialogue as well, not just through surveys, but that will help inform some of the background topics, for example, those kinds of things. In terms of, we do have URL codes. I'm sure you've seen them on your mugs, and they will be on a lot of our things around the city to try to get people to just engage, pay attention to Let's Talk, and try to participate. Know who to contact on that page will be the planning partnership, Ms. Hanson and Ms. Berardi, if people want to set up appointments to talk to us, all those kinds of things. In terms of how much feedback, any guess at this point. Hopefully we do receive a lot, because I think the more informed we are on where the city should go, it's better for the planning partnership to try to create that vision for us. And they do have a number of ideas in terms of engagement, and we've seen some of them that they've done in previous municipalities. Some of the surveys are really interactive, simple but interactive, so it's not too complex, and we get the base information we need for the larger conversation. So if there's anything else I can answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dolch.
Can we send information out with the tax bill? Because everybody gets their tax bill who are a homeowner, and they might not be computer savvy. They might not know what a QR code is. I know we want to focus on youth, but we really need to get the information out there, and I like the out-of-the-box thinking. But one way to do it is through water bills, utility bills, and through tax bills.
Ms. Dolch?
Thank you, Worship. Definitely. We will definitely put them through the regular means of notification, paper ads, things like that as well. But in addition, we're just going to take it a step further.
Great, thank you. Through the mayor to the speaker, you talked about discussion papers and pop-ups and open houses, and will those open houses be on specific discussion papers? I was following the town of Oakville, and they had different charrettes for different things. One might be about climate change, so they would have an open house specifically about climate change, not about the whole official plan, because then you have so many people and it gets a little muddied. Will they be on specific topics?
Yes, through you, that's absolutely an option to have them focused on topics, and we would explore that with the city staff team. I think that often makes a lot of sense because it helps everyone understand what the purpose of the event is, and they can focus in on the topics that they're most interested in.
Okay, great. In the presentation, it talks about that right now, the region remains the approval through our city official plan, but Bill 23 is going to shift it to the province. Do we know when it's going to be shifted to the province, and is there a benefit of the region approving our official plan or the province? Is there any benefit?
Yep, Ms. Dolch, maybe to weigh in on this one.
Thank you, Your Worship. We don't have an exact timeline for that yet. They haven't dealt with that through proclamation on different things, but at this point, we have made sure that the planning partnerships work did include that aspect of it, that should we have to pivot from the regional approval to provincial approval, that that was included as part of the RFP that they bid on. So we do know that that's a possibility. We may have to pivot to ministry approval, and we will make sure that as we work with the region, that the ministry staff are on the periphery at least involved, so that we don't get to a situation where we have to start engagement from the start with the ministry staff.
Great, thank you. Just the one final question. Is there a benefit of one or another approving?
Through you to the councillor. No, I do know on a provincial level, obviously, they will, depending on the situation, if obviously everything changes and approval needs to go through the ministry, whether or not they have the staff and resources to address all the official plans that may come at them, that will be the question. I know a number of the area municipalities in Niagara have already kind of started their official plan or completed their official plan, so we may not get that increase, but I do think that the region right now does have some ability to and staffing resource to provide that service for us.
Okay, thank you. I think this is a great opportunity to start from new. The last one had 160 amendments, and it's a word salad in there. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm hoping that we can tighten a lot of the language, because there seems to be a lot of weasel words or questions or loopholes, should, could, may. So I hope we can tighten some of the responsibilities of people in there. In our current official plan, we really don't have much about climate change, and I'm hoping that there's going to be a whole charrette or discussion paper on climate change. What we have doesn't protect the environment like we should. We talked about tree bylaws, that should be in there. I've looked up at the Toronto Green Standards, and there was an interesting way of what they did is they put through a plan, they gave the developers time to work the plan, ask any questions, and that would go on for a while. Then they would do another version, and they're up to 4 versions now. So they give the developer time, they work with all of the requirements, get their feedback, and then they keep going and building off of that. I'd really like to see something like that in our official plan as well. Another question I had is, the region passed their official plan. Will we be starting with their official plan and building it to ours, or do we care about what they have and we start from scratch? What are we doing?
Ms. Dolch?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we do have to conform to the region's plan, so we do kind of take their basis, and as Ms. Hyde said, we kind of get more interpretation in our OP and understanding. They come in at a high level. We're going to go down to the next level of explanation on what the designation means, the policies mean, things like that. So, but we do have to take their base in a sense to make sure, because we do have to conform to their official plan.
But it's a good base to start with and then expand instead of starting from scratch.
Correct.
Okay, good. In looking at the official plan, a lot of times, and I know we've talked about different notifications of meetings, a lot of times we do the minimum standards. Is that something that we can look in our official plan about, yes, here's the minimum standards, maybe about notification or number of feet of a buffer or whatever? Could we look at expanding that? We don't have to do the lowest standards. We can go and have a higher standard for our residents. Is that something that we can look at as well?
Ms. Dolch?
Thank you, Your Worship. It depends on what area and what aspect you're referring to. In some cases, yes, but for example, we are going to try to get away from this official plan as being dealing with zoning matters. Right now, I feel the current official plan does have a lot of zoning-esque to it that we have to deal with, and that is what creates a lot of our official plan amendments. So we are going to kind of steer away from that a bit and make sure that the appropriate mechanism is the new zoning bylaw that will come forward. You know, an official plan is supposed to be a guiding document. The zoning bylaw is supposed to implement. So we want to make sure that we have an overarching umbrella and something to plan for the future, and then we'll implement with the zoning bylaw, and the specifics will be in the zoning bylaw. We still may have some kind of policy thresholds that are required in the official plan, but I just want to caution that, you know, you might not see setbacks or anything in an official plan. It will be in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, and then to build off of that, where would enforcement come in? Does that come into the official plan? An official plan should be goal-oriented with enforcement. Is that part of the official plan, or does that go through a bylaw and then through bylaw enforcement, or can there be enforcement through that?
Stolch?
Thank you, Your Worship. So under the Planning Act, enforcement doesn't fall under the umbrella of the official plan. The official plan is just a guiding document. Enforcement comes out through municipal bylaws that the city's put in place. So we won't be dealing with enforcement on that level. Obviously, for example, vacation rental units, obviously, you know, that's a kind of in the middle of the big sandwich, and what it does is, you know, there are policies put in place, there's zoning put in place, but in the end, it's the licensing that actually impacts and the enforcement, which, as you know, we are looking at the AMPS bylaw with legal staff, and we are going to implement an administrative penalty system to deal with enforcement matters. So it kind of builds on that. We set out policies, we deal with bylaws, but really the enforcement comes down to our specific municipal bylaws and in this case, administrative monetary penalty systems.
Thank you. Through to Ms. Dolch again, do you see the need for any new bylaws coming out of the new official plan? Or do you think what we have is sufficient, or maybe going through the official plan we might come up with new enforcement pieces?
Stolch?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's too early to tell. We'll have to wait for the feedback that the planning partnership gets from the public. There may be issues out there that we're not prepared for or realize at this point in time. So there might be something that the official plan kind of flags that we may have to deal with some of our bylaws going forward. It could be things such as with regard to climate change or those kinds of things. I know the council here has talked about not only tree preservation in development, but also tree compensation. So things like that may come out of the official plan, but we'll wait to hear from the public. We don't want to predispose what this official plan is going to look like. We really actually want to hear from the public rather than, obviously we all have thoughts and ideas. We're planners, we have a lot of them, but it's really a plan, and as you saw from the video, it's really our official plan. We want to make sure that the community gets their say before we kind of dictate where it's heading. So I don't want to get too far into it, but that's our plan at this point.
Okay, great, thank you. Do we have a heritage planner on staff, or do we use the regions?
Stolch, you're getting your squat work on.
Yeah, you could just stand.
Yeah.
So we do have a heritage planner. They're just new to the position, so they sit on the Heritage Committee. So again, not fully trained as a heritage planner, but they do deal with all the heritage matters.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm glad that we talked about this being educational, being meaningful, getting responses and feedback from our community, and I think that's really important that we put that into the plan, so that's great. I think it's really important that we look at the community as a whole, because a lot of times we're looking at silos of one thing, whether it's employment or whether it's agriculture. We're looking at silos, and this is an opportunity to look at everything, to look at everybody. It's also an opportunity for us to look at the resources that we have and figure out how do we want to utilize the resources, what new resources do we want to bring. And I brought up a notice of motion at the last council meeting, which will come to the next one, and within this presentation it talks about that the official plan will work off of our strategic priorities and our master plans, and that was my suggestion in my notice of motion for next council meeting, that we review I know we just did it, but there's a lot of new things that have come up that I really think we should review our strategic priorities and our master plans to figure out where we can utilize all of those resources. I brought this up last time when we were talking about development charges, and I asked the question, can we stop building? And we have certain zoning that allows certain building, and I understand that. There was an interesting article yesterday or the day before for Haldeman Norfolk, the MPP there, was talking about that we need to advocate for more provincial support because they're not being realistic about the development that municipalities can handle. She hasn't heard of anyone saying we have to press pause in order for us to get our own house in order, to look at what resources we have, to ask for more infrastructure, putting freezes on and looking where we want to put our dollars, where we want. So I think this official plan really gives us a good concept of looking at the whole city and where do we want to go, what do we want to be, do we want 30-story buildings all across the community. I know there's certain zones that we can only put that in, but at some point, do we want to say that's not where Niagara Falls should be? I think we need to look at that, and I think this is a great opportunity through our strategic plan, through our master plans, and through this official plan. And the one last question I had, I've noticed this in some of our other plans about the number of single-family homes that are targeted. And I've done a lot of reading on this, saying that there's going to be a lot of single-family homes coming up because I know some people want to stay where they live and they'd like to stay and age in place, but there's going to be a lot of single-family homes coming onto the market. But our targets divide single-family homes, apartments, duplexes, and I was surprised that single-family homes was a lot higher than the apartments and other types of housing. Ms. Dolch, can you explain that to me, please?
Ms. Dolch?
Thank you, Your Worship. Obviously, we do set out targets just based on historic trends. We do have those historic trends we use, but we have seen a switch actually just recently. It's starting to migrate more to the medium density, and you can kind of see it in our permit. That's why we track the permits and provide you those quarterly reports so we can start to see the trends that are happening. Historically, it's always a lot of single family has been developed. And now we're looking at different forms. It's not to say singles may not change in the future. They may be smaller singles because there is still a quadrant of the population, definitely, that would like to live in a single family detached dwelling. Even, for example, a senior, although they have maybe a 2-story single detached dwelling, a lot of them may not want to go into an apartment. They may want to go into a smaller residence, but there is no option for them there. So you can't discount that single detached dwellings, sorry, and I keep saying family, I shouldn't, detached dwellings, you can tell how old I am when I say family, but those detached dwellings are something that there is an aspect of the population that still likes those. I think what you're going to see, though, is them start to morph into something a bit different, and we're starting to see a trend now, is that those single detached dwellings may become 3 separate dwelling units. As you can see, the province just allowed 3 dwelling units as of right, and you may see them right inside a detached dwelling. So I think you're going to see a change in behaviors and things like that to allow people to, one, afford housing, and 2, provide things that they want to see. They may want to live with their family, 3 different levels, and have a backyard they all share. You know what I mean? You're going to see a different dynamic, and that's why I think the work that the planning partnership will do to engage the community, we'll start to hear those conversations on how people really want to live now versus what we have been used to, which was single detached dwellings generally everywhere.
Okay, thank you. And one final comment, I forgot one thing. A friend showed me some development in Germany. They have a different style. I know we've been doing a lot of stacked townhouses, and every time I look at them, I see this great big set of stairs, and I'm thinking accessibility issues, people can't get into them. And I know this, I brought this up before, and Ms. Dolch said, well, then someone with an accessibility issues wouldn't purchase that home, they would purchase somewhere else. In Germany, instead of having the stacked townhouses going this way, they have them going another way, just like you said about having a patio going out into the backyard. One would have window boxes and not go out in the backyard. One would have a rooftop. So there's a lot of different ways in other countries that are not necessarily the stacked townhouses, and putting that limit about accessibility. So I was hoping that we could look at different types of homes, and I don't know how they fit within our bylaws and that sort of thing, but maybe we can look at some more creative, out-of-the-box thinking instead of the stacked townhouses, because I do see them being very problematic in the next little while. Those are my comments and questions.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to move on to Councillor Patel.
To you, Mr. Mayor, to more likely Ms. Dolch. Actually, most of my questions got asked by Councillor Coco, so I just have a couple left. Previous master plan, how close were we with the prediction? We have older master plans, so when they created the master plan, how close we came at the end of the master plan? You know what I'm asking? Okay.
Ms. Dolch?
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, we haven't, there's targets out to 2031. We're not there yet. But it is cyclical. So, some years we exceeded targets that we envisioned in 2020, which when COVID hit, we never thought we'd see an increase in building permits, but we did. So, it goes up and down, but generally it's pretty consistent across the board. Like, yeah, we may not meet a target within that 5-year period, but then within the 10-year we'll play catch up. So it's tough to say where we'll end up. And I think Niagara Falls now is in a different situation than they ever have been. They have obviously the 3 new secondary plans which will feed into growth. And we also have a desire with the GO Transit that came to Niagara Falls, change the dynamics of growth coming to Niagara Falls. Because now all of a sudden, instead of growing further north, they're looking at the Niagara region in order to commute and do other things. So I think the whole picture's changed for Niagara, and you noticed it back when GO was originally announced. At the time I was in Fort Erie, and development changed there too. All of a sudden there was interest from GTA people. So I think where we are now and where we're going in the future is entirely different than the past that we've just left. So.
Oh, don't sit down. I have a question, so we're going to get it again. Yes. Through you, Mr. Mayor. 20 years ago when they did the master plan, they didn't think about most of the ethnic groups moving to Niagara Falls, and currently we are in a big need of cricket field. In the future, there'll be some other sports that we don't play in Canada. So are we looking at all those factors?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the councillor. So yes, that's something we're going to obviously hear through consultation, and I think that's the importance of consultation, so we understand. It may not necessarily, there'll be information that we may receive that we'll pass on to the Parks and Rec Department, so that, and Mr. Nichols' group, so that they understand what the needs are in the future as they go ahead to plan parks and things like that. That's something we'll hear through this process. We're going to look at through the OP, where parks kind of, the general idea of where parks are needed, those kinds of things, but the actual specifics the information will be fed through, but those are the important things that's how you build a community, right, with those things.
I have one more suggestion, how Councilor Coco added that she wants to see the environmental action plan. That's what she was talking about. I would like to see if we can consult with different ethnic groups to see what the future religious institute, or maybe when the future sports field, or maybe future community center will need. So I think we should have that specific meeting with certain groups to see what their needs are and what they see our city having in the future.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Next up, I've got Councillor Newesteg.
Thank you. And again, a lot of my questions were asked by Councillor Lococo, but there's just 2 more. One, obviously, the quality of this plan, this is so exciting, and what we put in is what we're going to get out, so the quality is going to be very important. And I understand, I appreciate all the different methods that they're going out for communication, but there's one, and you only see it when you go door knocking. So during an election, when we canvass everyone, you start to hear things. So I'm just worried, sometimes people are so busy in their active lives that they're not going to fill out a survey, they don't go to the McBain Centre, they don't have that free time. But if we end up at their doorstep asking them questions, I'm not sure how feasible that is, but you might get additional input there. The other thing that just kind of, and I don't know the answer to this, is 30 years out seems like why do we do master or these official plans for 30 years? It seems, I look at this little girl here and I can't imagine the world that she's going to be living in 30 years from now. And can we predict that at this point, or is it better to have a tighter frame, like maybe a 15-year as opposed to 30? I don't know why official plans are 30. It's just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Dolch.
Ms. Dolch.
Thank you. And I can say, you know, we do vision out to the future, and the reason for that is a number of reasons. Obviously, we have to plan, as you know, we have to plan for servicing all these other things that happen, and growth doesn't happen all, you know, everything all at once. It's a longer term thing. So we do need to plan far out, but we do updates every 5 years. So we do go back and make sure we're still on the money in 5 years. Are we still on the right target? Are we still on the right target? So we keep going back and looking at those things. You know, a lot of times there's sometimes 5-10 years, depending, whenever we think that it needs definitely an update. But I think the 30-year document's important because, again, we have to envision the city growing, like I said, and it doesn't happen right away. It happens over time. So, you know, 1,041 people, how are we going to address things? How are they going to get around? Do we need more trails? Do we need more parks? Do we need all those things that we need to factor in? Is we need to consider them now, because as you just heard in our development charges education session, those things have to be funded. So we need to kind of plan for the longer term rather than the short term to make sure that we can afford these things as we go along. So it's just proper planning. You do want to plan out and then update as we go.
And one last question to you through the mayor to Ms. Dolch. When you start doing this official plan, do you go back and look at the obstacles that we've encountered right now and that impede progress and quality of life as a starting base set so that we can kind of alter from there?
Thank you. Through your worship to the councillor. So yes, we do obviously factor in our current official plan, the things that we've encountered, as I just indicated about the zoning qualities that are in our OP. They are a bit of a hindrance. So a lot of times when we need to go through a development, it has to go through an official plan amendment, not just a zoning amendment, because there's zoning parameters built within that OP, within our official plan. So we do want to make sure those things are addressed. So anything that we know are an issue right now, but we don't want to use that document to build upon this. We want to start with a fresh document, because we could have decided to do an official plan review, but we decided not to. We decided to start with a brand new, fresh official plan because we think the community deserves it at this point, and we think that you know, there's a lot of potential for the city of Niagara Falls the next 30 years, and we need to be prepared for it. So I think those are the conversations we want to have with the public. Where are we going with this? What do we want to see? What's it going to look like?
And agreed, it's a very exciting time for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Ms. Dolch, here to get up again. How do you predict the growth numbers? You know, how are we looking at the numbers? How many people will be moving to Niagara Falls by 2051? How are we predicting those numbers?
Through their worship to the councillor. So the growth numbers are given to us by the region. So they get a number provided to them on growth overall. So they look at the growth overall within the region, and they allocate a certain percentage to us. So that's how we arrived at our number, and that's what we have to plan for. So it's done based on, you know, this is the growth, the province says this is your growth that you're going to receive, and then they divvy it up among the 12 municipalities based on different parameters. And probably the best to speak to it is Francesca or Signy, because they're the ones who deal with the growth the most in terms of the numbers.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Further to what Kira had said, and there is a reference to this in the report, the province has changed a lot of policies since that number was given to us from the region. And so you'll note in the report there is discussion about the fact that staff are meeting with the region right now to consider the implications of the policy changes. Bill 23, the province is looking, and the federal government are looking at increasing the construction of housing. The city approved a housing pledge for 8,000 units by 2031. So we are working with the region and with other staff at the city in terms of where our growth areas can be, and if we should expect something more than what the province has allocated down to us, or the region has allocated to us. And you'll see that in the report that we're looking at a number of potentially another 15,000 units on top of the 141,000 more people. So So it's an evolving and a dynamic situation as provincial policy changes, as there's more of a focus on greater density and building more houses, we have to adapt to that. So.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my question was not related to more Home Build Faster Act. It was more like, federal government has announced that 500,000 people will be coming to Canada every year. So are we taking that into factor by 2051? We will have millions of more people. And odds are most of them will be living in Southern Ontario. So
Yes.
that's where I was going with my question.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I think Kira covered it mostly. The numbers come from the province, who are reacting to what the decisions the federal government has made. They tell the region that the numbers that were expected to accommodate the region then allocates that to the local municipalities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Do we have any other questions or comments of councillors? Okay, seeing none, we're going to come back to the presenters, and I understand we've got some more presentation to come. Is that right? Or no? No. There's no more? Okay, so it's just us asking questions, and now we go to the public. Okay. So I'll go back to our clerk now, and at this point, we'll get some insight on to the next steps.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. We do have a number of speakers that had registered ahead of time, so I think we'll start with those, and then we'll go to the gallery to see if there's anyone else that also wishes to speak. Of the people that registered ahead of time, we do have 2 that are attending virtually, so I'll suggest that we start with them. Let me just point out that we are asking everyone to keep their comments to 5 minutes or less. I will be putting a clock up on the wall and reminding people as that 5 minutes is approaching, and we will be strict on the 5 minutes when your 5 minutes is concluded. If you did not get a chance to get all of your points across after those 5 minutes, as it was explained earlier this evening, there is opportunity for people to still write in and use the Let's Talk portion of our city's webpage. So feel free to provide further written comments as you wish. And also, if something else comes up as you hear other speakers talk, you may have other ideas. So again, feel free to use the Let's Talk or get in touch with staff on ways that you can submit those written comments. So first of all, let's go online, and the first speaker is Sarah Hesse, H-E-S-S-E. It looks like she's connecting now. And Sarah, the floor is yours.
Hi, sorry, I just couldn't quite hear what you just said there.
Is it Hess or Hesse, or how do you say your name?
Sorry.
How do you say your name?
Okay. All right, am I able to share my screen?
Are we able to share? Yeah, yes, you are. They've enabled you to share. And how do you say your name, Sarah? Hesse or Hess?
Hess.
Hess, okay. Thank you. Yep, yeah, the clerk got it right. I'm just checking. Okay, so the floor is yours. Now, I don't know if you heard earlier, we've asked everyone to keep their comments to 5 minutes. So hopefully you're able to do that with your presentation. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so my name is Sarah Hess. I just wanted to discuss my concerns over the Thunder and Waters development. I'm currently a master's student in environmental sciences, and I work with the National Research Council in modeling climate change adaptation strategies in the city of Toronto. So just history of this, in case anyone doesn't know, is that in 2015, the Ontario government made over $2 billion in agreements with China, $1 billion of which comprised of a development deal in Niagara Falls, which is the Thunder and Waters project. And of that $1 billion, the Chinese government invested $100 million towards the project. In 2019, the GR, which is the investment group, sold part of the land in a private deal to establish partnerships with local developers, but maintained that they would be involved in the project. So since the Chinese government is an investor in GR, that they will continue to be beneficiaries of this project and the revenue it produces. And this is a concern to me because in 2014, this specific Chinese government began committing genocide against Uyghurs, and we have been continuing to work on a project that they'll continue to profit from. So I find that
Ms. Hess, if I could interject, Ms. Hess, if I could just interject, we're here to talk simply about our official plan, not about specific countries or specific projects or in specific investments. This isn't the place. It's the genesis of our new official plan. So we're looking at high level. So we want to stay out of being specific to developers, to different countries, and different investors. So I just want to remind you, I appreciate you're passionate about Thundering Waters. It's not even called Thundering Waters right now, and we want to stay high level as we go through our official plan. So I just ask that you try to not be so specific and targeted in your comments and more in general, if you would. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Sure. So we'll move on then. Okay. So we have. Is it okay to say that we have a couple of wetlands?
Yep.
In the area that are significant. So some of these wetlands are home to several at-risk species, which include several species of bats, which are extremely important for our winery industry, because a lot of people don't know that bats are the primary predator for grape moths, which can lay larvae into grapes and then destroy entire crops. So these are a couple of other species that are also living in our wetlands, and most of these are at risk as well. So along Thundering Waters and other wetland sites, we have these signs that are posted that tell you about the significance of these wetlands. So if I could just read from the signs that we have. So they provide habitats for a wide variety of wildlife and plants. They host one of the most productive and biologically diverse habitats on the planet. They hold and disturb the excess water, and they filter, clean, and store water, and they act like kidneys for other ecosystems. So that means that they're not just significant in the areas that they're in, they're also significant for the surrounding areas. And I know that you guys know this because there's your logo right there. So I think it's important that we continue to protect these wetlands, including Thundering Waters and the other wetlands in the area. So this is, again, specific to Thundering Waters, but these are the types of development projects that we've been approving at the Thundering Waters site. These are not in line with the goal of affordable housing, in my view, as these are 30,000 square foot homes, and they're going to cost multi-millions of dollars. The average salary in Niagara Falls is $43,000 a year. Our unemployment rate is 7.3%, and it's only been increasing in the past couple months. And the average age of homeowners, over 50% of homeowners in Niagara Falls are 55 and older. So this housing is not going to be affordable to the average person who lives here. This is going to benefit people in Toronto and the US who want a nice summer home, but this isn't going to help our affordable housing crisis. And then I just want to say that earlier in the meeting, that you said that you were looking for a green and resilient city. That you want to protect natural heritage and to adapt to climate change. And if you want to keep those goals in mind, I think it's really important that the updated official city plan keeps these environmental sites protected. I know amendments have been made to allow this development to occur in the first place, but amendments hopefully can be amended and that we can go back and restore these wetlands. Yeah, so I think that's everything I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Hess. Appreciate your time. Okay, Mr. Clerk, who do we have next?
Our next speaker again is online, and her name is Joyce Sankey.
I won't challenge you on how you said the name this time. Yeah. Ms. Sankey, are you there? She's there?
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Sankey, are you there? Can you hear us?
Okay, I'm here now?
Yeah, there we are. We can hear you now.
Okay.
So I don't know if you heard the clerk earlier, so we're asking everyone to keep their comments to under 5 minutes. So the floor is yours.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. It's my hope that the new official plan will give Niagara Falls an opportunity to further enhance and protect our wonderful natural heritage. I was glad to see that the Woodland Management Plan is one of the building blocks of the plan. The Niagara Falls Nature Club had the opportunity to contribute to this plan, and we really enjoyed exploring some of Niagara's woodlands. Kudos to the city for funding improvements at the Willock Road Woodlot and at Baden Powell. And it's far more important to preserve our remaining woodlands than it is to increase canopy cover numbers. It is essential that undergrowth not be cleared from woodlands so that new growth of trees can take place. Niagara's wetlands are mostly wetland complexes, and they should be evaluated as such. When areas containing wetlands are developed, the wetlands should be placed in public ownership. Natural corridors connecting natural areas and features should be mapped out before new developments can further limit the ability to plan them. Although I understand why some flexibility in the language of the plan is necessary, it is my hope that when it comes to some important environmental protections, the language will be strong enough to make these protections enforceable. And buffers are important. They need to be large enough to provide protection to natural features, and vegetative buffers are usually preferable. They should not be constantly reduced in width through the EIS process. When it comes to development on land with valuable natural features, the environmental impact studies are not sufficient. The developers pay for the consultants, which makes the process a conflict of interest. I'd like to see more redevelopment of existing vacant and underutilized properties and more infilling development. And we need something more permanent than shelters for people who find themselves homeless. With the lack of affordable housing in the city, we do need medium-rise rental apartments. It would be nice if some of them were large enough to be more attractive. Stacked townhouses are most often for sale and not affordable, and as Councillor Lococo says, not really accessible. An inventory of municipal assets could be done as part of the plan. These nature-based ecosystem assets provide services better and cheaper than engineered infrastructure. This plan is an opportunity to allow the city to plan for population growth without losing any more of the city's natural areas and features. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Sankey. Okay, Mr. Clerk, who do we have up next?
Next, moving on to registered speakers that had stated they would be here in attendance. And that first speaker then would be Matthew Thornton.
Mr. Thornton here? No, Mr. Thornton. Okay. Next, Mr. Clerk.
All right, we'll move on to the next. Helene Kayer.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Helen Kayer, and I live at 9440 Eagle Ridge Drive in Niagara Falls. In 2013, after ensuring that the zoning was agricultural, my husband and I had just found the right place for our retirement in Fernwood Estates. Worship Mayor Diodati, councillors, staff, and members of the audience. The official plan provides a framework for establishing municipal zoning bylaws. It sets local regulations and standards, provides a way to evaluate and settle conflicting land uses while meeting local, regional, and provincial interests. This shows Council's commitment to the future growth of our community. I will refer to 6 points. This isn't easy for me. I'm 79 years old. And it's my second attempt at speaking about a problem or a concern. So I'll do my best to avoid the name, okay?
No problem.
Point 1, I'll refer to 6 points. Special Policy Area 44 for Fernwood Estates. This was approved by the Ontario Municipal Board in December 2006. This must remain intact indefinitely. It can never be touched. It's a big concern of ours, and I think you've received correspondence to that effect. Point 2, the surrounding area to Fernwood Estates is zoned agricultural. There are 105 pending current zoning applications, And the one that we're concerned with would take up 104 hectares from agricultural to industrial extractive for the purposes of developing a quarry. And that quarry would be located 1/4 of a kilometer from our homes. However, the Planning Act states something quite different. They state 1,000 meters, for example, for a Type 3 industry, which is a quarry. There are guidelines, point 3, there are guidelines in compatibility between industrial facilities that address potential conflicts between land uses, that conflict with, for example, homes, hospitals, schools, daycares, and industrial land use. And the guidelines in the Article 1.2.2 should be an integral part of our official plan. It defines incompatibilities in 2 types of land uses, and it has specific concerns for fugitive air emissions such as noise, vibration, odor, dust, and others, whether it's through operations that are regular or through procedures, maintenance, or storage activities and associated traffic, transportation, and ground-borne vibration, another one of our big concerns. The guidelines for the from the Environmental Protection Act, the Environmental Assessment Act, the Ontario Water Resources Act, they all address emissions into the soil or the water. The Municipal Industrial Strategy for an Abatement Policy addresses discharges into surface waters. We have those too in the agricultural area around us. And federal agencies such as Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada, well, they have the guidelines for relocating Beaver Dams Creek, for example, a body of water, the fish displacement, etc., etc. Point 4, as a growing and expanding area, the City of Niagara Falls should have established guidelines, a starting point for all of its decisions. Please note that we have read, I'm sure you've read too, SABRs, which are settlement area boundary reviews that are done for as far as 2 kilometers away from where this potential quarry is going to be. So that's a distance that is far. Someone is very concerned about this. Here we are, 1/4 of a kilometer away. The Niagara Falls Official Plan, Part 4, page 200, addresses provincial and regional plans and those that are affecting municipalities in the area. And so Niagara Falls must have regard for the residents of Thorold because they are going to experience exactly the same thing as we will. Exactly. It's like a mirror image, one to the other. Now, page 209 of the interim speaks of the interim control. I'm asking the city right now, all of the councillors, to approve an interim control bylaw. And the reason why I'm looking at this is because if by chance planning department, advisors or what have you, approve the quarry, there's going to be a whole lot of problems, not just for Fernwood, there'll be problems for the developer, for example.
Just
and
to
that
let
should
speaker
not
know
be.
you've reached your 5 minutes.
Yep. So I asked for an interim control bylaw, please.
I'll just ask our we've got both our solicitor and our general manager of planning who maybe will just give some comment on your specific request on interim control bylaw. Ms. Dolch.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the presenter. So in terms of the interim control bylaw, obviously we're here tonight to discuss the official plan. The official plan, you know, in terms of what we do with the official plan, with regard to the development near Fernwood, the quarry application, that development application is in and will be processed under the current official plan policies. So any interim control bylaw wouldn't be again, something council can consider, and I'll pass it over to the solicitor in a minute. But in terms of this official plan, it will have no impact or on that process, obviously, because again, the development application's in, and we're processing it currently. So, just a factor, and I will pass it over to our city solicitor.
Ms. Pignarti.
Thank you. Through the chair, the quarry subject matter was brought up at a previous meeting of council and then deferred for staff to come back to council with the report. And because this is a special meeting, it's not on tonight's agenda, but it will be on the agenda for the March 19th meeting. where staff will go back to council with the report on that. So that topic will be discussed then. And as for the interim control bylaw, we'll certainly incorporate any comments from a staff perspective when we go back to council on March 19th.
So March 19th, you'll be looking at the moratorium and towards this, the two of them?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Next resident that I have is Mr. Aaron Dion.
Mr. Dion here? Right here? Okay, great.
Hello, I'm Aaron Dion. I'm here for a lot of the same reasons that previous speaker Helen was here for, so I'm going to cut this short and I'll re-attend the March 19th meeting. But I'd like to say while I am here, I would like the City of Niagara Falls official plan to be specific to how it will protect adjacent municipalities and, as a good neighbor, have regard for approved land use in adjacent municipalities. The official plan should specifically acknowledge, work with the City of Thorold, and detail how the City of Niagara Falls will address a good neighbor policy with appropriate zoning in its official plan precisely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
The next speaker is Vince Salvatore.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Vince Salvatore. I was born and raised here in Niagara Falls. I own a business in Fort Erie. I have commercial and residential properties in Niagara. And most importantly, my family and I reside in Fernwood Estates. I'm here today to discuss a concern about the city official plan in regard to the distances from industrial facilities. I have read the city's official plan and I can't find anything about the land use compatibility or distances. In recent documents that were proposed for the quarry that was submitted, there's a range of distances for sensitive receptors, which is about 500 meters. However, all the distances noted are minimum distances per the ARA rules. A great example in the last council meeting in February 27th regarding the proposed apartment condo, whatever it may be. It's on the corner of Lenny's Lane and Gardner. There was a mention of class 1, 2, 3 industrial facility. It's a land use compatibility definitions. Surprisingly, the land use compatibility for fugitive emissions like dust, odor, noise, vibration, etc. for class 3 industry is actually 1,000 meters. That's twice the distance submitted by, I'll call him a quarry developer. I checked the Niagara Falls, as I said, official plan, and there's nothing I could find about distancing or sensitive land use restrictions. This needs to be addressed so that areas associated with residents, senior citizen homes, schools, daycare facilities, hospitals, churches, and other institutions or campgrounds would be adversely affected by emissions generated by operations of a nearby industrial facility, including a quarry. As I mentioned, I live in Fernwood, which is within 260 meters from the below water level of a proposed quarry. As residents nearby, we all feel this is quite concerning. I understand the need for aggregate, but I think our families should come first. And need to ensure that my family will not be in harm's way with inadequate guidelines for existing or proposed land uses. I will assume the City of Niagara Falls will ensure that land use planning guidelines are appropriate. And according to the D6 compatibility between industrial facilities of the Ontario Environmental Protection Act, the Environmental Assessment Act, and the Planning Act. Most importantly, ensure that such distances are part of the official planning document. Please consider my comments of concern. Myself and many residents want to know what the City of Niagara Falls will do about this to protect the residents of Niagara. I appreciate your time and listening to my concerns.
Thank you. I'm just going to go to our General Manager of Planning about the one comment about distances that you were talking about.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to the presenter. Hi, nice to see you again. In terms of The D6 guidelines are a ministry document. It's ministry kind of controlled at this point. It's not to say it's something obviously the planning partnership has heard this evening about separation, something we'll consider, but the ministry is in control of that. They're the ones who comment through the region on the distances. In terms of those distances, there are two differentials between those. There's an area of influence and the actual minimum setback requirement, which I'm sure you've seen. So depending on the classes, as you're aware, those are the things we'll factor in. But that's something we can take away from your presentation, and we will have discussions with our planning consultants on that for the future. It's not to say we may or may not mimic the D6 guidelines, but again, the D6 guidelines are a separate document that is controlled by the ministry. The province controls those and administers those. So I just want to be clear on that.
Thank you.
But in terms of your comments on the development application, I do want to assure the public that's here tonight, obviously, that development application is before us.
Right. And
obviously the concerns of the resident is something that we'll bring forward to council when that development application comes forward. That's why we're working with the JARC committee to make sure all the studies and documents have been reviewed and that we're satisfied with the outcome. So obviously stay tuned for when it does come back to council, and we appreciate the comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Clerk.
Our last registered speaker is Mr. David Rupe.
Mr. Rupe, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Bill, thanks very much. My compliments to the young lady there that's 79 too. I thought she did a great job tonight. So before I get started in my 5 minutes, over the past 18 months, I've had opportunity, the occasion to engage various departments within the city. I'd like to give my compliments to the clerk's department and Kira's planning department. They've been quite responsive. I may not have always agreed with the responses, but certainly the responses were forthcoming. There are some other groups within the city that have not been responsive in any manner, and I hope that that can change. I have two comments, questions, one directed to our consultant and the other to the planning department. Just with regard to the consultant, whether the property ownership information will be available to you as you...
What you can do is direct the comments to me, and then it'll be through me to the guest presenters here.
Yeah, so if the consultant could respond to that, whether that property ownership information will be available to them. And I understand that there's going to be various discussions with business and the public at large, and what assurances that those discussions will be transparent to the population at large, particularly with regard to business. There is certain apprehension within the citizens of Niagara Falls with regard to some big business. Here in Niagara Falls, we have an incident where a subdivision was constructed and the business was silent with regard to their future plans. So I just encourage the consultant to ask those questions as to what business plans are going forward, and have those recorded so that the public can see them. To Kira or Ms. Dolch, I've tried to learn from my mistakes in the past, the few that I have made, but clearly the city plan, the official plan is over 30 years old. We've made approximately 160 amendments. So Ms. Dolch, I'd like you to respond as to some kind of categorization of those amendments as to what was the driving force. Was it public? Was it business? What was the driver for those amendments? And we had an official plan in 1993. I don't know whether any of the councillors, present councillors, had that position or were a councillor in 1993. Perhaps Wayne. So maybe either Kira or Wayne could respond. Was that official plan successful? Did we meet the vision at that time? We're developing a vision for the next 30 years, but 30 years ago we had a vision. I'm not sure what it was. Perhaps Kira can explain what that was. And then Wayne, maybe you can speak to what was the official plan successful?
So we'll start with our consultants here and we'll see if we can get, so what you're asking, if I understand correctly, you're asking them to discuss with business and industry what their intentions are for going forward. Is that what you're asking us for the
That was
official
the
plan?
one comment, and whether the property ownership information would be available to her as kind of a
Which property?
quality assurance
Which property ownership specifically?
in Niagara Falls.
Like all property?
Yeah. In the outlying areas, business may have made some investment in that property. And just as a quality assurance check, that when she asks this big business what your plans are going forward, if she has that information that a certain business owns 100 acres, like that would perhaps draw a question as to what are the plans?
Okay, so I'm going to start off with Ms. Dolch. Maybe you can set us up first. Yeah, we can go to our consultants.
Thank you, Worship. So in terms of providing the ownership information, that's something I wasn't really envisioning they would need at this point in time. In terms of the local businesses, obviously we work with our economic development team, and we'll identify those businesses that are in the city of Niagara Falls, and that may be a focus group. We haven't got to those details yet, but definitely we take your comments under consideration about definitely reaching out to the businesses. So it is something we will do. Whether or not they're a separate party focus group, or most likely they will be. I'm going to say that now, but I think at this point that's all we can do. And unless there's a reason Ms. Hine would need the property ownership information, I don't think it's.
Yeah, I think there's. I'd speak for quite a few residents. I think that there's some mistrust with certain businesses in Niagara Falls. So whatever can be done to make those concerns go away.
I'm not sure what you're talking about regarding mistrust. I don't know about any mistrust.
Yeah, we're trying to stay away from, I think you asked to stay away from specific.
Yeah, but I don't know that anybody's been not trustworthy or not been upfront with what they're doing. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if this is the direction that we're going to take this in. This is an official plan discussion. It's not an investigation. So I know you made mention of 160 amendments. That's going backwards. We're trying to go forward. Yeah. And as it was mentioned earlier, it's a living document. It's evolving. Of course it's going to change. That's a healthy document with lots of changes. And sometimes it's a series of afterthoughts. That's when you rebuild. But until you get to that point, you amend it. And that's why there's lots of amendments. The growth of the city from 1993 to today, you wouldn't recognize it. There weren't casinos in the town. There weren't high hotels in the town. There weren't water parks. I mean, the city's changed in significant ways. Wineries weren't. There wasn't a plethora as there are today. So, I mean, no one has a crystal ball. It's always the best logical guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
So we need to look in hindsight, to learn from what's happened in the past. So what were the inadequacies that we had 30 years ago? Was it that we didn't understand how the industry was going to develop within Niagara Falls? Like Kira, I'm sure, can categorize those 160 amendments.
Well, Kira wasn't here for 160 amendments, so she would know. There's only one person around this horseshoe that was there then, and that's tough. If I ask you a question over the last 30 years, that's not an easy question just to stand up and answer. So I'm going to suggest today, the purpose of today is looking forward. It's not a rear view mirror. You can ask staff to look back and do an evaluation of the amendments, and if they would have done things differently, absolutely. But tonight we're not going to ask them to stand up and comment on the amendments they weren't a part of. So the focus today is going to be to move forward.
Yeah, so that's my question to the planning group. I think it's a fair question.
Well, we can ask it.
Yeah, like if you consider it an unfair question, then I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Well, and it's not that it's unfair. It's just tonight this is just the beginning of the process.
Yes.
So this could be part of their homework when they're coming forward with a new official plan. So maybe I'll ask Ms. Dolch to comment, and then if our consultants have any insight too you want to offer, we'd love to hear from you as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do fully agree. Obviously, yes, I wasn't here for all the amendments, but the amendments do go through the planning process, and the planning process in Ontario is set up for just that. Just because we create an official plan doesn't mean that every situation has been factored in. You know, it is, like I said, as we talk about, a 30-year document. We can't factor in every situation, but that's why we have the planning system we do in Ontario, to make sure that every time an application comes in, there's parameters and things we have to evaluate, and we base them on the official plan policies, and whether or not, you know, there's things like, for example, policies on environment. Is there no negative impact? That doesn't necessarily mean that every environmental piece is protected long-term, and you know, because there are other woodlands, for example, that could possibly develop, provided there's no negative impact in that category. So there's parameters and policies that we analyze for each development application, and I think that's really the merits of what we did in the past, was that they were evaluated based on those thresholds at the time during that period by each planner who reviewed those applications. So I don't think, I can't say to you that in the future this official plan won't have amendments. Hopefully we're going to minimize some of the amount of amendments, you know, but that may only be for the first 5 years, and then we have to update, or the first 10 years. But again, that is the goal, but again, it doesn't fit every
I
every
agree
scenario.
with the mayor. This is a living document. Changes are to be expected. But let's look back as part of the homework as to what was driving those changes, so that maybe there's something we can do going forward.
Absolutely. And maybe you can ask our consultants too if you had anything you wanted to add at this point. We know it's the beginning, but you know, it was fair comment for part of the homework for going forward. So yeah, by all means, if you want to come forward.
Sure. I've been doing this for a long time, for 40 years, and it's a fair question. There's always a little bit of concern about how the consulting team are going to liaise with the development community, and do they have special access? Do they have special opportunity? The answer is no. I've never asked for property ownership mapping in an official plan exercise. Absolutely, I like to know where the property lines are, because it helps me draw lines for your mapping. But I don't particularly care who owns it. And that's the first part. If through the process the development community requests a meeting or is part of a specific group that we meet with, absolutely there'll be notes taken, and those notes will be public. There's nothing going on behind the scenes here. It's all about disclosure and transparency. I expect that through the process we'll get lots of submissions from the development industry, and like every other submission, it will be part of a comment review matrix that will be available for everyone to review. Nothing going on behind closed doors. Everybody knows everything that everybody is asking and talking about, and that's part of our job. I wouldn't have had a career if I wasn't at least transparent about what I do.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. And Ms. Dolch is going to offer more further comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just wanted to say, Mr. Rupe, I did put on, strategically, I put our official plan consultant, Francesca Berardi, on the team just for that aspect. She's been with the city for 22 years and has dealt with the official plan during that time period. She was a policy planner throughout that. That's why she was chosen for that role, so that she could help inform our planning team on the issues and things that we've encountered over that time period. So she has been here a while, and that's why she was chosen for that role. So hopefully that gives you some comfort that we are looking at that.
As I said at the beginning, I think you've got a great staff. I think they're doing a great job. They're responsive. So my final just reiteration would be whether the public would be invited to attend some of the meetings with the business, and vice versa, whether business could attend some of the general public focus meetings.
So who would answer that question?
I would think it would be the consultant, but...
I'm gonna, okay, so everybody's saying no. I'm gonna start with our general manager of planning, and then if you folks someone wants to weigh in. Stolch?
Thank you, Worship. We haven't got to those details yet, but I do think that if we do a focus group, it's meant to focus on certain aspects of a business or requirements of a business. It's not to say, as you said, they would be recorded meetings, especially if they were on Zoom, or they would have meeting notes that they would share. You know, because when we do focus groups, we're trying to focus the conversation, and rather than, it's not to say that we wouldn't open up, we can have further conversations, but I wouldn't want, you know, those are open house meetings, obviously, with the whole public invited. We do want to kind of tailor it to the focus groups.
Any further comment from our panel? Yeah, you can come forward.
Sure. I'm going to weigh in just a little bit because I'm going to be also leading and managing and figuring out consultation engagement all the way along. And I'm going to also put on the table that often we offer up an opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with a member of our team. So when we put up that diagram to say there's so many different ways we're going to reach out to the community, and we're going to figure that out every step of the way. And sometimes when we have the best of intentions, we start out with a great community engagement plan, we stop after several weeks or several months. We stop, we pivot, we figure out what's going well, what's not going well, we reposition, we figure out a different strategy. So you have to let us get started. You have to let us start talking to people. Kira is absolutely right. We want to have conversations with people that you can talk honestly and openly and anonymously with me. We absolutely will be summarizing everything we hear. I never attribute what I hear to a person that has said it because I don't think that's fair, but I absolutely will tell people what I'm hearing. I'll tell you 100% of the projects I work on, I will hear people saying, I want lots of parking. I don't want lots of parking. I want active transportation. I don't want active. You're going to hear the full spectrum of opinion on every single topic. And what we hope from the get-go is that people are open to hearing a whole host of different opinions that they may not share. But I want to have one-on-ones, small group conversations that are targeted to a specific interest. Big, giant public meetings, open houses, there will be everything. Between now and December, I hope there's not one tool or tactic that you can think of that we haven't used over the coming months.
Thanks.
Give us a chance to get started.
For sure.
Thank
I
you,
encourage you for a one-on-one conversation.
I'm going to put that notice out. That'll be the first thing I do.
Yep. Yes, Councillor Coco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a thought. I know we've talked about that we have a lot of vacant land throughout the city, and some people are land banking it and we don't know what it's being going to be used for. I was wondering, can our staff contact vacant landowners to find out what their intentions are? Like, we're looking at a big picture right now of our official plan, and we're looking at our strategic priorities. Can we contact the vacant landowners to say, what do you want to do? Is it something that we can work into our plan, just to have an idea about what they're doing and maybe build it into our plans?
I mean, we'll ask staff for a comment. I see that being a huge challenge. First of all, there's thousands of parcels. And second of all, why do they need to tell us, right? I think it's
I know that they don't need to, but I know we've talked about land banking before, and I know we've talked about reaching out to certain people to find out what their intentions are. So I just wanted to put it out there.
You know, the problem is we've had land developers come before us and go through zoning amendments, and we've approved all sorts of things, and they haven't done a thing. So they spent money to tell us what they were going to do, and they haven't done it. So the fact that someone's going to just tell us with a phone call, I'd say, I wouldn't want to waste our city resources that way, but I'm going to, you know, if staff knows something better or
I just want to back up, not the ones that have come to us already, the ones that are sitting there and we don't know anything about. Yep. And I can appreciate your comments.
We can start with Ms. Dolch.
Thank you, Worship. So in terms of inviting the vacant landowners, we don't want to get in a situation where we're taking private amendments through our official plan. The official plan is supposed to be kind of a guiding document, and it's something, not to say they can't participate in the process and provide us, but I don't want to go and ask, hey, what do you want to do on your piece of property, and what do you want to do on your piece of property? Because what's going to happen is I'm going to rezone and redesignate for everybody who ever wanted to do anything in the city. So we want to take it at a higher level and make sure that the planning partnership can have those conversations so that they understand it. And definitely, I just don't want to invite the fact that we're not going to be doing private amendments. We will listen to their commentary. If they want to reach out to the planning partnership and through our Let's Talk page and say, I have a site here and I think it would be ideal for this, definitely we'll look at that. But in the end, the planners that are reviewing it will kind of come up with recommendations on where they see the land use going. And we're going to rely on their expertise. They've done, I can't tell you how many official plans. So, the experts are here in the room that have done a number of official plans, and that's who we'll rely on in the end, based on the feedback and the guidance they hear from the public.
Thank you. Through the mayor, I appreciate your answer. Thank you. And I didn't mean that we would be taking amendments and doing special things. I was just looking at what's out there, what else could we be doing, and I wasn't referring to making special amendments or anything like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rupe.
Thank you. Thank you for the 5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Baldinelli.
Through your mayor. Yeah, we're all listening to the possibility the provincial government's going to make some possible changes to the structure in this area, Niagara region. The money you're spending now for the official plan, how will that be affected in the future? Do we spend a lot of money doing a change, and will there be changes in that plan if the structure is changed, and how will that be incorporated into issues like this?
Ms. Dolge?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we did build it into the RFP that changes could happen, and we do know that we might have to pivot and look at that. And we're trying to engage all the groups that would facilitate that change, such as the ministry, to make sure that they're kind of tagged along with us through this process. In the end, obviously, if the official plan's approved and governance changes happen, that's a different story. But if something happens during the process, we have built that into the program.
Any other councillors? No? Okay, Mr. Clerk, where are we at now?
That concludes the list of registered speakers. You can certainly open it up to the floor.
Yep. Do we have anyone else here interested? Okay, great. So if you could just, we'll do one at a time. And again, ask that you introduce yourself, your address, and then we'll start a 5-minute clock, and hopefully you can get everything done within that 5 minutes.
Yes, I'm John Balker. I live 134 Church Street in St. Catharines. I'll build on the comments of the first speaker. I agree with your comments, Mr. Mayor, that the term Thundering Waters is rather inappropriate one, because it's essentially the name of a failed golf course that no longer exists, but there is a good ecological term to call this area. It's actually 1980 ecological study by the Niagara region. It's called the Ramsey Road Woodlot. Hope you become familiar with that long-standing report in this process, which is still really the best study of ecological areas in the region. And unfortunately, I think all this time a better study would have been developed. But the big concern she had is, although she didn't reference, like she should have, the language of the provincial policy statement, it is, her concerns are in there. The provincial policy statement has provisions for what they call significant wildlife habitat. And in the past, there used to be part of that in the Niagara Falls official plan. For example, they would identify the deer wintering areas as significant wildlife habitat. That was done 20 years ago, and it currently isn't done. Now, the region official plan has never identified these areas. In the past, the Niagara Falls official plan was ahead of the region. And the way, it's a good thing in the provincial policy statement the provisions for significant wildlife habitat can be exceeded by the local municipality. The big way that they can be exceeded is the muzzle weasel word. The big muzzle word in the bare minimum of the provincial policy statement for this significant wildlife habitat is it says it can have no development unless it's guided by an EIS. But the municipality actually has the power to say no development in these areas. And one of the areas that the lady was concerned about is this area called amphibian breeding habitat, which is an example of significant wildlife habitat under the provincial policy statement. It gives 20 areas. This is one I'm quite familiar with. And this is one of the reasons I think the new official plan is to speed it up, because these areas should all be mapped. And this mapping should have started today, because today is actually, I think, the first day when you hear the amphibian breeding chorus. I was in the Ramsey Road woodlot today before I came to this meeting. It was quite magnificent to hear the chorus of the spring peepers and the federally endangered western chorus frog. And this is a wonderful thing for students to do. Get them out there and listen to the frogs in their neighborhood and in the city. Real scientific hard research. Make education meaningful for the students. Get them involved in the official plan by looking at these 20 areas of significant wildlife habitat that are addressed in the provincial policy statement. Have this guide our city official plan, which a region wasted years they had. 5 years to develop a new official plan, never looked at significant wildlife habitat, and this isn't because no one asked them to. I asked them to, and they completely ignored my advice. None of the planners, staff at the region have a planning department have a doctorate. Well, I do, and I know something that they don't know. I seem to know how to read the provincial policy statement. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bacher.
Dr. Bacher, please.
Dr. Bacher, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, we've got, Ms. Manson, again, if you could just officially introduce yourself and your address.
This is exciting. My name's Linda Manson. I live at 4732 Cookman Crescent, and I seem to have lost my voice. My wish list for the new official plan can be summed up in 3 words: faster, higher, stronger. The Olympics motto, and hopefully the spirit behind this project: a stronger official plan with higher standards that rewards good developers and good developments with faster approvals. My wish for the vision of our new official plan is a higher focus on the 3-tier point of view: provincial standards as a low bar, regional standards as a quasi-solid template, but certainly a well-presented document to build on, and our city standards as top of the podium. I hope for a stronger, higher plan that plugs loopholes bad developers leap through and replaces those weasel words we keep hearing about, the ones that merely create an illusion of protection. Weasel words like may, generally, encourage, suggest, that allow precious natural resources to get bulldozed. A plan that will actually protect environmental protection areas by adding the scientifically proven stronger linkages they need to exist. As for public input, I'm hoping feedback doesn't go into a void, but yields a genuine community consensus. And from what I hear tonight, I think this is going to happen. A consensus of who we are as a city and who we want to be. of what we value and how we realistically preserve what we value. If we truly believe, for instance, that we value great public spaces, then our plan must treat public spaces as a precious resource, not a bargaining chip to be unfairly traded. This plan will plot the story of our city's growth for the next 30 years. To plot that growth towards a happy ending, it needs to identify, prioritize, and protect all that we value. And it needs to envision a cap on growth. Ensure we only grow the way we want, where we want, just so far and no further, with no more urban boundary expansion. It's no secret, we keep hearing about it. What we have now is unwieldy. It's 30 years old, it's piecemeal, there's 373 pages, 160 amendments, understood. It's a plan that reads like a list of exceptions versus the rule. Our new plan going forward needs to be clear and consolidation. And it has to have visuals, maps that show our vision at a glance, maps of the same scale with easy-to-use overlays, building on what the city staff has already done, modeling on what the region has already done, but better. A good plan takes a good planning process. In terms of public consultation, the quality of feedback will depend on how the public is engaged, how genuinely welcome and valued versus viewed as a mandatory requirement, how freely allowed to discuss specific problem areas and concerns in plain language without technical censoring or a secret ear at a table, and never being made to feel overwhelmed. Otherwise, the only significant feedback will be from the developers' paid consultants. I hope the process involves looking at what other municipalities are doing, best practices, proven successes, not reinventing a wheel that's already rolling well elsewhere. Finally, while I am truly excited about the great consultant the city has contracted, I hope the local resources we have right here in City Hall will have input. We have young planning talent eager to get their teeth into this project, and a highly talented, seasoned professional at the helm, Francesca Berardi. Official plan project manager she has proven she has the visionary thinking and communication skills needed. I sincerely hope to see her signature mark on our new plan, as well as the expertise of the planning partnership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Manson. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else here who wishes to address council on the official plan? Yeah, if you'd like to step forward, if you could just state your name and your address, please. And reminder that we ask you to keep it under 5 minutes.
Thank you. I probably will. My name is Leslie Lawn. My address is 5525 Rexinger Road, Niagara Falls, Ontario. Do you need the postal code?
No, that's
okay. I'm actually very encouraged, and I know it's one of those weasel words, I'm sorry, but I think Niagara Falls has an amazing opportunity now to move forward and become a world city that we have been in the past, and I think moving forward can set a precedent for to not only the region, the province, but possibly the rest of the world as well. We have the privilege of having the falls and an amazing, I guess, green industry that has been built. We built tourism as its main, I guess, industry around, but it does have, I think, a great anchor that we can attract other industries, green and environmental and forward-thinking sustainable industries to our area. And I think that that should apply not only to industry, but to development, to our community building. Because right now, from listening to a lot of the comments here, I get the sense that a lot of a lot of people have perceived our communities as becoming commodities. And I don't think that should be a standard we want to aspire to. And I think with this new official plan, we have a chance to involve the people in our communities and encourage them to come out and participate, which is what your plan is as the consultants. And I think we have, like I said, an amazing opportunity to move Niagara Falls forward as a green, sustainable, and ecologically friendly municipality. And I would love to see that happen. So that's my...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, if you'd like to come forward to the microphone. Again, if you can state your name and your address, and we remind you if we have 5 minutes, please.
Yes. My name is Judy Doer, and I am a resident of Niagara Falls. I have a very short statement to make, and listening to all of the other ones that had very incredible points to make. But my point is that we haven't discussed the climate change crisis that our communities across our country are designated as a crisis, I'm trying to say, as an emphasis on that word. Our official plan should represent every facet of its development in the lens of climate change and environmental protection for our natural heritage and for our watersheds. And I speak on behalf of my 4 grandchildren who live here in Niagara Falls, all going to university, that they're concerned about the future of this city and across the country for that matter, and how we disregard our wetlands, our wooded areas, our water systems, our natural heritage. And I just ask this council to please show your environmental knowledge and strength and follow the science that has been at our doorstep in critical mode for 40 years. And I don't know what we're waiting for to act on that environmental science. I do not see it in this city. And I don't see it by the communications at the meetings that I follow. This is crisis. It's an environmental crisis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, Councillor Patel. I'm sorry, is there anybody else before we come back to council? Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Patel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to a consultant. I'm not sure who's going to answer the question, but how does it usually, how do you work around? Like, what's the guideline? Do you usually have to follow the provincial wetland guidelines and also the NPCA mapping? So how much control do we have for the master plan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The establishment of a natural heritage system has been a process that has been tested and worked through for several years. It starts at the province. And as it was mentioned previously, the provincial policy statement is clear. Significant natural heritage resources and their associated ecological functions shall be protected. So that's a clear statement. There's no waffly words around that. Protect it. In order to protect it, you have to identify it. So in this process, notwithstanding comments from earlier, we are relying upon the mapping that is provided by the region, and the region working through the Conservation Authority was tasked with creating mapping that identifies all the significant natural heritage features and functions that are to be protected. So that's a fundamental requirement and responsibility of the City of Niagara Falls to implement in this official plan. The policy framework that goes with that certainly will have opportunity to have it challenged, but through the challenge, it has to be a scientific challenge. One additional thing that's a little bit newer related to threatened and endangered species is that every single development application now has to go through a process to prove that they are not within habitat of threatened or endangered species. That is something that the ministry requires from every development application. So in my mind, one of the areas of policy where the province is relatively clear and strong is protect the natural heritage system. It's the first layer that goes on the map, and everything happens around it. So we can do the best we can. I've heard from some of the commentary tonight that the mapping's not good enough, etc. So I'm going to be looking for a strategy that requires the environmental studies beyond the simple boundary that is in the regional official plan. But we have to rely on the scientists. Absolutely, they're the ones who can tell us what the features are that need to be protected, what the buffers are that are necessary to protect it, what the linkages are to protect the function. We have the information that we have. The goal will be to make sure that any development in proximity to any of those mapped features is appropriate and has no negative impact on the environment.
Thank you very much. You did address some of the concerns were raised, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments of council for our consultants or our staff? Okay, oh yeah, I'm sorry, Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for everyone's input. I can't imagine what the planners, they haven't done this, and well, the only person that's here was Wayne, that was on the last official plan. So it must be for you planners. This must be like the Super Bowl of everything for you guys to do this, and it's very exciting that all of us councillors and the mayor get to take part in this. And like our mayor said, it's a living document. So there's going to be constantly things changing. And we're learning more and more about the world as the years and the days go. And you saw that beautiful video. Was it Adeline or Addison? Adeline. Adeline. Like that's something that, you know, should be on social media. And just, you know, it's really, really heartwarming to think what the concerns of the kids and what's going to be like, you know, in 2051. You know, and things are just changing so much. Councilor Patel mentioned just on, you know, recreation. I couldn't imagine like a cricket field 30 years ago, and now we're looking at putting them in just because, you know, it's so diverse, our city, and everyone coming in, different cultures, different languages, playing different sports. It truly is pickleball. You know, we imagined pickleball a few years back, and that's everyone's just crying for it. They want it. You know what I mean? And knowing that it's going to be a living document, and we don't know what it's going to, truthfully, we don't know what it's going to be like. I don't think anyone knows what it's going to be like in 2051. Everything's going to change. You looked at during COVID, you know, everyone now, people are like, they want to come and live in Niagara Falls because it's attractive, weather's good, live near the States, easy to travel now. Now they can work at home. They have their office at home. You're seeing a bunch of mixed developments now where you see mix of commercial, residential, where they're basically one-in-one, almost like a gated community you see at near Grimsby there, you know, along the water there. Because people can work from home now, and they're going to be traveling from the train to Toronto because they only have to maybe do that twice a week, or they can live in Niagara Falls and it's more affordable for them. We see different types of homes now. You know, everything was always single family. Now you're seeing multi-generation homes. I know one of the developers is starting to do that, where they have 3 different levels, where they have, you know, the main for them, they have a lower or upper for their in-laws, and then for the kids who are just growing up, because, you know, that's the way it's going to be more affordable. I think it's very exciting. And like I said, nothing is written in stone, and we love the input from everybody coming in, you know, especially environmentally. I know Leslie has such a great passion, and Dr. Bacher and all of them, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, we need your input and to make this official plan work, and let's make the Super Bowl of this plan successful.
Thank you, Councillor. Well, if we don't have any further comments, the public meeting with respect to the official plan is now concluded. We're looking for a motion. Councillor Thompson, okay? Second by Councillor Patel, that the council receive the report regarding the initiation of the new official plan for the city of Niagara Falls, and that input received through the public meeting be considered in preparation for the new official plan. So we've heard the motion. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, and that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Appreciate your input. Looking for a motion. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Oh, hold on. Oh, look at you, Councillor Patel. Motion by Councillor Patel, seconded by Councillor Baldinelli, that the bylaws be given a first, the bylaw be given a first, second, and third reading. All those in favor? Okay, and that's approved. And a motion for adjournment. Can we adjourn now, Mr. Clerk? Motion by Councillor Patel, seconded by Councillor Lococo for adjournment. All those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.